Today on Morgan Versus, we have a very special comparo because we're going to compare the world's greatest car to what I believe has to be one of the worst, a Vanderhall. And we all know from Matt Farah's, some say unfair review of the Laguna, that a Vanderhall is nothing like a Morgan. But this is a very special Vanderhall because this is the brand new Venice. It's half the price of a Laguna. It's about how much is it? $29,950. When you buy one, you happen to get a magical Vanderhall guy nearby to answer questions. That means that a Vanderhall Venice is half the price of a Morgan three-wheeler. Let's talk about exterior styling. I want to hate it. Obviously, I want to hate it, but it's really cool. It's really, really cool. Vanderhall has really, really nailed this. If you were to build a three-wheeler from scratch today, this is pretty much what it should look like. Let's talk about the engines. The Morgan has a 2-liter American-made S&S, 2-cylinder, making about 90 horsepower. Nobody cares. The great thing about it is it's mounted on the front, which means when you break down, you have easy access to it. You can see all the oil leaking out of it. It's just a fantastic motor for when you break down. The Vanderhall has a GM 2-liter, 1.4-liter. Nobody cares. It's mounted underneath the hood. You can't see it. Why do you buy such a car? You want to see the moving parts, especially when it breaks. The Vanderhall clearly is more reliable than the Morgan just based on how it appears. It's clearly junk. Nobody cares. The Morgan is better. We already know that the Morgan stock headlights are absolute junk and unsafe, and I had to replace them with LEDs. Here you see the Vanderhall has LEDs as well, and they're concealed from debris and are probably better than anything. I think the Vanderhall might win this one. Yeah. But you can't put tape on top to make it look vintage, which means that the Vanderhall is junk and the Morgan is better. Morgan wins. Let's talk about wheels, tires, suspension, and brakes. The Morgan has 18-inch wheels, these beautiful wire spokes, with a sidecar tire with very low grip and very poor performance, which is why it's so great. It has brakes, and the caliper has the Morgan wings on it, which is cool. If you get a flat, you need a special tool to remove the wheel and tire, which I lost. But in a Morgan, if you get a flat, you're dead anyway. The Vanderhall has what appears to be an 18-inch wheel with modern brakes and a tire that's at least 3 times wider than the Morgan, which obviously has better grip and is probably better in every way. The problem is you're in a Vanderhall, it's junk, the Morgan wins. The windshield would appear to be far superior to the Morgan because it's a large one-piece unit that can actually block wind. But in reality, it's very bad because you want to grab it, and if you do, you'll break it off, which means it's clearly junk. Morgan wins. The Vanderhall's rearview mirrors seem to be well-mounted and well-mounted, which means they're better than the Morgan mirrors, which are absolute junk. I think the Vanderhall might win this one. Exhaust. Well, we all know the Morgan's exhaust is the greatest of all time, and this is where the Venice falls short. These little baby pipes are mounted in a way that you can't see them from all angles outside the vehicle, and they're much quieter. But granted, I did install aftermarket pipes, but it doesn't matter because these pipes need to be out here, and if you can't burn your hand on them, they're not correctly placed. So the Vanderhall is junk, Morgan wins. Then you've got the gas cap, which I want to hate, but actually is really cool. This thing is cool. My gas cap on the Morgan actually fell off, and I lost it, so I just have a thing. So something Vanderhall's okay. These roll hoops are actually the correct height to protect your head from injury should you flip over, which is very likely, and it appears to be safer than the Morgan, but the Morgans are in chrome. But it's an option. Vanderhall, it's getting close. In the rear, you have the rear tire, which is much larger than the Morgan's. I don't know the size. You know why? Nobody cares. It obviously offers more grip and is much safer than whatever is in the back of the Morgan. I don't know. And that's the problem, because this is front-wheel drive, therefore negating the benefits. Something? Nobody cares. I'm going to give the Vanderhall points here because the thing looks so cool. Most people don't know how it works. I really like it. But there is a problem. The name of the vehicle is Venice, and on the back it actually says Venice. And a lot of people are going to walk up to this. They're going to say, Oh, do you live in Venice? And you're going to say no. Oh, is that aftermarket? I don't know. Not buying it. It's junk. The Morgan is better. I mean, does the Morgan say three-wheeler on it? Obviously not. Morgan wins. The storage behind the seats is actually... It actually has storage behind the seats. The Morgan, I mean, you need to open the trunk. It takes over half an hour to get any... This is not bad, except that what's behind here is detailer. What's this? A helmet, some other... This is for coward. I don't wear makeup. What a bunch of cowards these people are. What's the... Who buys a Heli Air Monaco hat? This car's for jerks. This thing is junk. The Morgan wins. Let's talk about options and accessories. The Vanderhall has this this quite cool hat, which I don't know. It's probably very reasonably priced. All of Vanderhall's options are reasonably priced. Houndstooth is like $975 or $2,000. I forget. The steering wheel not removable, which means that there is no anti-theft option. And the tonneau cover cannot be attached to this one because it requires snaps that you need a hex key to remove. I don't know. I'm confused. There are lots of great inexpensive options, but it doesn't matter because the Vanderhall is junk. The Morgan has one option. Vanderhall does not have. The Morgan clearly wins the options war because you have all this extra space, which allows you to carry this. And this is not only intimidating to people who might want to mug you, but also doubles as your rain protection because this samurai umbrella can then be wedged between the seats, just like so, and held by your passenger to block the rain. And we can now demonstrate that. It's amazing. Samurai umbrella. No room for that in the Vanderhall. Ingress and egress. Very similar to the Morgan, except there's no center thing to put my hand on, so I fall like this. It's junk. The Morgan wins. I'm actually lying because this is far more spacious and comfortable than the Morgan. But in a class of two, both being terrible, you're still in a Vanderhall, so the Morgan wins. Let's move to egress. This is where legitimately the Vanderhall does lose because there's no center tunnel and there's no chassis member to brace my foot against, so I'm like this, and then I'm like this, and then my feet slide on this, and then my shin hurts, and then you gotta do this. They're both equally terrible, but the Vanderhall needs something in the middle more. Unbelievably, the Vanderhall Venice actually has a ventilation system, which would seem to be a good thing, except that the added complexity of the system in a vehicle costing this much can't possibly work, so it's junk. But the rest of the interior, I on first glance, I really love. It's got this beautiful steering wheel, which is clearly better than the junk foisted on me by my English friends. It's got a gauge cluster that looks vintage, which is what you want in such a vehicle. It's got a temperature gauge, which you probably need. It's aftermarket on the Morgan. It's got these switches, which are unlabeled, which I know are accessory switches for options that don't exist. And then you've got the, I guess, fan control, which is really cool. It looks old. I love that. It's got the choke, which is vented air or heat, which, if it works, is really cool. And then it's got a stereo. It actually has speakers in it. And the controls are really elegant. If they work, I don't know. I'm not going to find out because I'm too lazy. But you know something? I'm going to give Vanderhall real points here. Then you've got a problem. You've got the lack of a center tunnel, which means you can't Velcro and tape other things to it, like an iPad navigation. So the Vanderhall is junk. Let's talk about the transmission, which is this 6-speed GM automatic mounted dead center. And you know something? Even though the system is probably junk because it's GM, I love it because it's clean, it's out of the way, and it doesn't look like it's an automatic. And the best part about it is that it's got this bump shifter, which I don't know if it works because it didn't work earlier or I was too dumb to figure it out, that you can use to change gears instead of this, I suppose. It doesn't matter if it works or not because it looks cool, and in that way, it's even with the Morgan. Now that we're done ignoring the facts, we're going to go to driving impressions. And I can tell you in advance that even though the Vanderhall is better in every way, it doesn't matter because I want an unsafe, unreliable, foreign vehicle that's hard to fix, that's fun to drive, because that's why something, let's just get in the car.
Daniel Boyer with Vanderhall Motorworks. We really appreciate the opportunity to come out here and spend some time with Alex. He's obviously delusional about his vehicle, and that's okay. The Vanderhall is better in pretty much every category that he's described so far, and the only reason he can't get out is because he's old and not very flexible. So realistically speaking, the Venice is better in every way and costs half as much.
Nobody cares. It's junk. It's junk. Cut it, dude. This rebuttal's no good. Just cut it. It's hard not to say that it's better, except that it sucks because the engine's too quiet, the acceleration's too linear, it's too good, and at $30,000, it offers too much value, way too much value. Part of the charm, part of the magic of owning an exotic, because that's what it looks like, is that it's got problems, a lot of problems. And then, of course, you have the engine. The engine is not loud enough. The exhaust's not loud enough. You could fix that. I'm starting to make excuses because for the first time I'm driving a car that actually ticks all the boxes of a Morgan customer. You see, it all comes down to crowd reaction. If you showed up in the Vanderhall alone, you're pretty much in the coolest car there is until the Morgan shows up. Which one do you prefer? Which one's cooler? Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, which one would you prefer? Wise choice. You like this one or the other one better? Oh, old school, yeah. This one or that one? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. You see? There it is. It's tough. It's tough. People are emotional creatures. They often don't know why they like one thing over another. Oh my God. You want a really cool looking, weird ass, funny, sexy little three-wheeler, and you want to save money. The Venice really has got it. I guess for the first time, someone's actually made the three-wheeler you want. And it's a three-wheeler you can afford. What else would you buy? This thing makes a lot of sense, which is why it sucks, which is why it's junk, because you buy an exotic. An exotic does not have to be expensive. You buy an exotic because it's junk, because it doesn't work, because you can't fix it, because you own another car. I can't wait to give this thing back so they can get out of town, so no one can see it next to my car, so no one can see me boosting the Morgan from the Vanderhall. Puts and outputs. I caution you again, the brakes are terrible. Let's get this started. Let's hope it starts. Prepare to feather the throttle lightly. Now just sit tight. Press this button. A little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle, a little bit. No, less. All right, sit tight. We have to boost it again. Okay, it's all right. It's all right.
Sorry.
You know something? Hop out. Let me start it,
Okay.
and then here remove. Yep. Yeah, you got it.
I figured that out. That's pretty handy.
Yeah, it's really handy. How's that egress, Vanderhall guy? Yeah. You see, you have all the things to hang on to help get in. That's amazing, isn't it?
Got some flexibility.
You're much healthier when you own a Morgan because you have to remove this at least 3 times a week. Okay. Uh-huh.
You want me to hook up and you can get in? I saw you do that.
Where'd I put it?
It's in here.
I heard it.
Oh,
Okay.
you had it out in advance because you thought
Yeah, because
it wasn't going to start.
It's This doesn't change the outcome of the video, by the way, because this is part of the ownership experience. And don't get too smug, Vanderhall guy, Dan Boyer. Oh, God.
That was my bad, obviously.
Okay, so we should just leave the battery tender in there.